The desert evening carried no mercy. Dust rolled low across the ground, and the lanterns inside the cabin threw crooked shadows against the walls. She stumbled through the doorway, a girl no older than 20, her dress torn at the shoulder, blood at her lip. Her stepfather's boots followed heavy behind her. The man reeked of whiskey and stale smoke, eyes red, jaw clenched like a wolf cornered. "You think you can shame me?" He spat, the words sharp as broken glass. The girl tried to steady her voice, but it broke in her throat. "I did nothing wrong." The answer only enraged him. He raised the bottle in his hand and slammed it against the table. Glass shattered, whiskey running like fire across the wood. His other hand came down, hard across her face. The sound cracked louder than the bottle. She fell to the dirt floor, fingers clawing at splinters. Dust filled her mouth. Her stepfather kicked her ribs once, twice, then dragged her by the arm. "You carry sin," he growled, voice dripping with hate. "And sin burns deep." Outside, the night wind tore across the prairie. He flung her into it, leaving her in the dirt. The lantern glow framed him in the doorway. Broad shoulders, dark hat, a shadow with no soul. The girl curled against the cold earth, whispering to herself. My sin burned deep, but the truth lived different. Her only sin was being born under his roof, caught in his rage. She staggered to her knees, the horizon spinning. Coyotes howled in the distance, their cries echoing her own. She pressed a trembling hand against her bruised cheek, lifted her face toward the stars. For a moment their cold light was all she had. Behind her, boots crunched on dry earth as the man turned back inside, door creaking shut, laughter echoing through the thin walls. Alone now, she stumbled forward, each step dragging like chains. The trail stretched endless before her, nothing but dust and shadow. The lantern's glow faded behind, swallowed by the night, and in the silence, only her breath, ragged and broken, carried her forward into the desert's black mouth. The desert did not forgive. It swallowed the weak, silenced the desperate, and left only bones for the wind to scatter. Her wrists were bound tight with coarse rope, the fibers biting deep into her skin. Every movement scraped her raw. The outlaw stepfather had dragged her across the sand until her knees bled, then tossed her down like a broken sack. He stood over her now, silhouetted by the dying moonlight. His spurs jingled as he shifted his boots, a sound colder than the desert night. "You'll rot out here," he muttered, lighting a cigarette with shaking hands. He took one drag, then tossed the match into the sand. By dawn, the coyotes will be picking what's left. She lifted her head, lips cracked, voice no louder than a whisper. "Please don't!" His laugh was harsh, empty. He leaned down close enough for her to smell the whiskey on his breath. "You carry sin, girl, and sin don't deserve saving." With that, he shoved her back into the sand, mounted his horse, and rode off. The sound of hooves faded into the horizon, leaving her to the silence, a silence broken only by the flap of buzzards circling above. The desert air cut her throat like glass. She tried to crawl, fingers digging at the sand, but the ropes bound her too tight. Her nails split, blood mixing with the grit. Every inch forward felt like dragging her body through fire. She tried to scream, but no sound came. Only a hoarse rasp that vanished into the night wind. Tears stung her cheeks, dried instantly by the cold air. Her body shivered, exhaustion pulling her down. The stars blurred overhead. She pressed her face into the dirt, whispering one last time to no one but herself. My sins and burned deep. Her strength slipped away. Darkness edged in from all sides, folding the desert into shadow. Far in the distance, coyotes howled again, closer this time. The moon sank lower, and her body went still against the sand. She was left alone, a figure half buried, the desert already claiming her. The dawn broke soft across the prairie, painting the sand in pale gold. A horse's hooves cut through the silence, steady, deliberate. The rancher rode alone, a man in his late 50s, shoulders broad from years of labor, face weathered by sun and storm. His eyes scanned the land with the patience of someone who had buried too many memories here. That's when he saw her. A body crumpled near the cactus grove, hair tangled, skin raw with rope burns. For a moment he thought she was gone. He dismounted fast, boots sinking into the sand, and knelt beside her. Her chest rose faintly. Alive. Barely. Easy now, he murmured, voice low, steady as a prayer. He slid an arm beneath her shoulders, lifting her carefully. You hold on, girl. You're not finished yet. Her eyelids flickered. A dry whisper escaped her lips. My sins. Burn deep, the rancher froze, heart tightening. He looked at her wounds, the bruises, the blood. This wasn't sin. This was cruelty carved into flesh. No, he said firmly, pulling her closer. The only sin here is the hand that did this to you. He laid her across his horse, holding her steady with one hand as he rode toward his ranch. The wind whipped against them, carrying the faint scent of smoke from his chimney in the distance. When they reached his land, he lifted her down gently, cradling her weight as though she were a child. The cabin door creaked open, lantern light spilling across the room. Inside, he set her by the fire, wrapped her in a wool quilt, and pressed a cup of water to her lips. She drank in trembling sips, eyes glistening with both pain and disbelief. He tended her wounds with rough but careful hands, whispering more to himself than her. No one deserves this. Not in my land. Not under my roof. For the first time in years, his cabin felt alive. The flicker of flame. The shallow rhythm of another's breath. Outside, the wind carried silence across the prairie. But inside, hope had taken its first fragile breath. The saloon doors banged open just after dusk. Smoke and whiskey hung thick in the air. The outlaw stepfather staggered in, eyes bloodshot, fists clenched. Anybody seen my girl? His voice carried like a whip crack. Men at the tables froze. No one answered. Only the shuffle of cards and the slow creak of a chair breaking the silence. But whispers followed him as he stomped to the bar, muttering that she'd been seen near the ranch land. He slammed a coin down. Whiskey. And the truth, the barkeep poured with a shaking hand. No truth came, only silence. By nightfall, he rode out under a swollen moon, spurs ringing sharp against the saddle. His horse snorted, hooves drumming against dry earth as he made for the ranch. Lantern light glowed faintly from the cabin windows ahead. He dismounted, boots crunching against gravel, and strode toward the porch. But he didn't make it far. A cold click echoed through the night. From the shadows of the gate, the rancher stepped forward, rifle leveled steady at his chest. That's far enough, the rancher said, voice low, unshaken. The outlaw grinned, rotten teeth flashing. You think you can hide her? She's mine. Always will be. Not tonight, the rancher answered. Not ever again. The two men stared, the desert wind rushing between them like a ghost. Horses shifted uneasily, sensing the storm ready to break. The outlaw spat into the dust. Head tilted low, he took one slow step back. This ain't over, he muttered, eyes narrowing to slits. She'll come back. They always do. The rancher didn't flinch. His finger rested firm on the trigger, lantern glow sharpening the scar across his cheek. The outlaw mounted his horse, pulling the reins hard. He rode off into the dark, his laughter bitter, echoing across the prairie. The rancher lowered the rifle but did not breathe easy. He knew men like that didn't vanish. They circled, waited, struck harder the second time. Behind him, through the cabin window, the girl watched with wide, fearful eyes. She saw the man ride off into the night, and she knew the terror wasn't finished. Not yet. Morning light spilled over the town like a tired promise. Wagons rattled down the dirt street, dogs barked at passing horses, and the clang of the blacksmith's hammer rang out steady. Yet under that noise, tension lingered. Word had spread fast. The rancher rode in slow, reins firm, the young woman seated carefully in front of him. Her face was pale, bruises dark along her jaw, but her eyes, though hollow, carried a flicker of defiance. The sheriff's office stood at the end of the street, a square building of wood and dust, its flag hanging limp in the still morning air. The sheriff himself waited outside, a tall man with iron-gray hair, coat draped over broad shoulders, star glinting in the sun. He took one look at her, and his jaw tightened. Bring her inside. The cabin smelled of leather and tobacco. She sat across from him, hands trembling as she tried to speak. The rancher stayed at her side, steady as an oak. Tell me, the sheriff said gently. All of it. Her lips parted, and for the first time the story spilled. The bottle smashing, the rope biting, the desert swallowing her whole. Every word carried the weight of years of silence breaking. The sheriff wrote it down, each mark on the page sounding louder than the last. When she faltered, the rancher's hand found hers. At the end, her voice cracked into a whisper. He said, "My sins burn deep." The sheriff closed the notebook slow. His eyes, hard as stone, lifted to the rancher. "That ain't sin. That's abuse. And it won't go unanswered." But his voice dropped lower, grim. "He's got friends here. Men who drink with him. Men who draw iron quick if I move too soon. You need to be careful." "He'll come back." The rancher gave a single nod. "Then we'll be ready." Before they left, a preacher stepped in from the street, laying a hand gently on her shoulder. "You are not cursed, child," he said. "You are carried." For the first time, her eyes brimmed with something other than fear. A small, fragile hope. Outside, the town bustled on. But inside, a line had been drawn. Justice had spoken. The moon rose heavy and red, casting long shadows across the prairie. The ranch lay quiet, lantern light glowing faintly through the cabin window. Inside, the girl slept fitfully beneath a quilt, her breaths shallow, her body still marked by bruises that refused to fade. The rancher sat by the fire, shotgun across his knees, eyes never leaving the door. He knew the night would not pass in peace. The first sound was distant, hooves, many of them, pounding like thunder in the hollow dark. Then came the glow. Torches 5, 6, more, snaking across the hills toward the ranch. The rancher stood, jaw tightening, and blew out the lantern, plunging the cabin into darkness. Outside, the gang drew closer, laughter echoing, cruel and sharp. The stepfather's voice rose above the rest. "Bring her out, old man!" "She belongs to me." The rancher stepped onto the porch, rifle in hand, boots grinding into the dust. "She ain't yours," he said, voice steady, carrying into the night. The outlaws spread in a half circle, torches flickering against their faces. Their eyes burned with drink and malice. The stepfather sneered, spitting into the dirt. "You think one old man can stop us? We'll burn this place down and take her anyway." On cue, one of the men hurled his torch into the barn. Dry hay caught in an instant, flames climbing fast, sparks scattering into the black sky. Horses inside screamed, kicking against their stalls. The girl awoke to the crackle of fire, rushing to the window. Her eyes widened as the barn lit up like dawn. Her hands shook, clutching the quilt to her chest. She whispered a prayer, words lost in the roar of flames. The rancher cocked the rifle, the sound sharp as a hammer on steel. "You take one step closer, and you'll meet the dirt tonight." The outlaws laughed, but their boots hesitated. The fire painted the rancher's scarred face in orange light, his silhouette carved against the rising smoke. The girl crouched in the loft above, heart racing. Praying the sheriff's promise of justice was more than words, because tonight, sin had come with fire, and it would not leave quietly.